the whole meeting. Today is Monday, August 18th, 2025. It's 5 o'clock p.m. Thank you all for joining us. We do have an item to appear on our agenda at number 5 for consideration tomorrow night. This is the resolution setting a special city election and for the police station. And to provide some further context regarding item number 5, we will start with our City Administrator Decker Plain and move to our Police Chief Doug Scott.
Actually, Your Honor, I'm going to hand it off to Jeff, and then Jeff will hand it off to Doug, and then Doug will hand it off to Chris. So,
Jeff Ryder, our Assistant City Administrator.
I'll go first.
Oh my God. Who's on first?
Thank you. So, as the council remembers, Your Honor, we a year ago identified the police facility as our number one priority in our council goal setting. We looked at our space needs over the last couple of years and could see that as we were hiring more public safety officers and here in City Hall, not having much expansion capacity, and we added a total of 4 people in community engagement over the last couple of years, we were getting squeezed. When we remodeled this building 25 years ago and we built this addition, I said then that I thought we'd last about 25 years and we'd have to try to make some decisions about where we'd move then. At that time, we had 31,000 people. We had 35 police officers. I think everybody should appreciate that the building that the police are in today was the original City Hall building that was built in 1959. The area that the police station operates now was primarily all of City Hall. There was no very small space for City Hall or for the police department when the building was originally built. As we expanded twice in, I believe, 81 or 82, they gathered a little space. And when we did this expansion 25 years ago, they got the old council chambers, was basically what they inherited. As you know, we expanded fire twice on the west side of the building, but there's nowhere else to go now on the east side of the building or up. So I'd like now Jeff to talk a little bit about the process that we undertook last year after you identified this as the main priority, because Jeff kind of ran that portion of it along then with Doug. So, and Doug will take over from Jeff, and then Chris will be our closer.
Fantastic. Mr. Ryder.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, as Decker said, we have engaged in a very lengthy process to get us to this point. We've been working with Bray Architects. We brought on Estes Construction as our construction manager at risk. When we started to look a little bit more at the tactical and schematic needs that we had, initially we talked with the staff. We surveyed the staff to see what the space needs could look like, square footage wise. Really getting down into the nuts and bolts of what existing staff have or don't have, and also what future staff could potentially need. We identified, obviously, the potential for this facility to be converted into a full-on police station, and then the administrative staff find a new home. We looked at the option of potentially acquiring a site that was more centrally located in Bettendorf. And Brian Schmidt, Brent Morlock, myself, with the Bray team, actually toured that facility. It had a lot of the things that we needed, yet it did still have some deficiencies. We felt that there would still need to be the build out of things like a council chambers and a little bit more administrative space because we looked at the potential for consolidation of a couple of departments into this new facility. So there was some cost assumptions that were brought into play there, plus the actual cost of just acquiring that site, which was very cost prohibitive when looking at the whole package. So while on the surface that site looked very, very appealing, it did have some things in mind that made it somewhat cost prohibitive. The third option that we looked at was the greenfield site that we are proposing just north of the post office, out in front of Bettendorf Public Works. It's a site that we own, which made it one of the most economical options. And it also gave us the opportunity to build a police station that meets all contemporary needs that Chief Scott and his staff have today. So going through the iterations of looking at those 3 potential options, we arrived at that being the most realistic and prudent scenario. As we got through some of that investigation, we also started to work with Chief Scott and his team to look at schematically what the needs of the police station would be. And that's where Chief Scott worked very closely with Bray on what a two-dimensional layout would need to look like. And it brought into account everything from the physical space, but also logistical needs as well. How is it the best way to, ingress and egress from the site in the case of an emergency? Different things about safety and training, different objectives like evidence collection, evidence storage, just all of the needs that they felt are necessary for a contemporary police station today. And it started out as a dream, a big wish list, and I think we were very, very cost conscious and prudent in actually whittling that down to something that provides for today's police station, but also some area for expansion in the future as well. So try to be very cognizant of what realistically could be an opportunity for the city today, but also keeping in mind areas for expansion as well. So as we got into that, Chief Scott worked through all those iterations. We came up with a 2D model, and that's what we've based our decision points on to where we are today. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Scott to talk a little bit about that schematics and where they're at.
Thank you, Your Honor. So when we're talking about, to Jeff's point, a building that's designed for a police department, it's really that purpose-built police department that we're now been able to work with Bray Architects and all of our staff to really decide how can we best utilize this space to meet the needs and for all of Bettendorf and the community that we serve. As we were moving through that transaction there with Bray Architect, and we were looking at all these preliminary workspaces, we're really trying to look at just a rough draft of how would this workflow in the building benefit staff. So anything from where the cars are parked and adjacent to the workspaces, adjacent to equipment storage, to how evidence gets processed. So things like that our officers are dealing with on a regular basis, like fentanyl or other chemicals and things aren't being tracked inside of the department and things like that. And we were really able to look at kind of a one level instead of a 2-story or something else. And it's really been quite the process going through all of that, being able to see something start to kind of come to light. And I think that's where we are now, that helped us get to a point where we can tangibly look at it and say, okay, this would meet not only the purpose-built needs, but the contemporary solutions, the best practices in law enforcement, training spaces, the ability to store all the evidence that we need to by statute, be able to collaborate with one another, and all of that to our fortune, the city currently has that lot available by the parks and centrally locates that right in the middle of town, which just further creates adjacencies for us with the public works in between two high schools that we service. It just continues to add additional benefits. We were able to work through with Estes Construction at Risk to kind of drill down on that pricing. And then we began our educational kind of informational open houses, where we were able to kind of get information out to the public the best that we could at the time to gauge interest, if the taxpayer may be willing to support this. Surveys were created. They went out to all the households in the city. They returned a 59% favorable result to us. And I think that's when we came back and educated council and wanted to continue to move forward in this, because we feel like there's some energy and some traction there. It's been amazing to see a lot of the public stepping forward as they've been finding out about this project and wanting to be part of that and helping pushing this forward. People are being willing to volunteer their own time to help gain traction and educate our community of what the needs really are. One of the major things that we've been hearing to date is, if you take the time to walk through the infrastructure as it currently sits, a lot of people are really shocked at a police department operating in that space. It just was never designed to be a police department. If I understand it correctly, in the 1960s, it was your council chambers, it was your clerk storage, it was it was where the city was ran. And we've just continued to adapt and move on, and we have this awesome opportunity. Regardless of what the outcome in November would be, if you were to put this on the ballot, just speaking on behalf of the police department myself, it's just been very positive seeing just all this support coming out for us, for the city, for the police department, and so many people just being willing to champion our situation here. So it's been really great.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Curran.
Thank you, Your Honor. And just to, as Decker and Jeff and Doug have indicated, it's been quite a process to get to this stage. We're now at a very important point in the process tomorrow where there is a resolution that would call a special city election to take place on November 4th of this year on the issuance of not to exceed $27 million for the construction of a new police station. Because this is the type of decision, it's a general corporate purpose as opposed to an essential corporate purpose. It requires this referendum to be placed on the ballot. It would require a 60% favorable vote of all votes cast in order to allow the city to proceed with the issuance of the bonds and eventually the construction of the new police station. Because this is really relating to potentially the issuance of bonds, we've had our bond counsel look at it. We've talked to the auditor. We want to make sure that all the technical aspects of the election are proper. We've done that. The ballot language is largely prescribed by Iowa code. And so it is a technical aspect that's on the ballot or on the agenda tomorrow. But as Doug, I think, very eloquently stated, it's been a process to get here. And once it's on the ballot, if council so chooses, there will be a process where the city will really take of the role of providing information. The city will not be advocating for this once it's on the ballot, but it has been a process to get here, and we're excited to recommend that we move forward with this.
Anything else?
Just, Your Honor, three great citizens have stepped forward. Pat Eikenberry, Jim Spellog, and Ann Kapler, and agreed to be the advocate committee to take this forward to the public. We're grateful for them considering to do that, and they've raised some money, and they're going to take over once the measure's on the ballot. At least from the staff perspective, we can provide information, and we'll do that, but we can't become advocates, and they're going to take our place, and we know that they're excited about doing that, and we think that they've got great energy and momentum to do that. And so that's where the ball will go after we have it on Tuesday night.
Tomorrow night, yeah. Yes, much thanks to all three of them. Any questions?
Your Honor.
Yes, Scott.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have some questions about how the public might best get a good perception of the reality that you illustrated in terms of what conditions a person, sometimes when you see it for yourself, like, okay, this is the evidence area, this is where the officers are working. We've got the privilege to have seen some of that, but it creates a value where the general population might go, hey, this is excessive, more government waste. They're fine, they can get away with it, until you see what folks are living in and working in, and then obviously there's prosecutions and there's evidence at stake, and it's security or lack thereof. But I think that's when people are deciding, hey, is this the right thing for Bettendorf? We've got to help people understand that, like you gentlemen illustrated, this has been thoroughly evaluated, and in my mind, every option, including renovation of this facility, modifications of others, and it's been a lengthy process. But still, I think, there's not a lot front and center for folks. Maybe you can remind them how they might engage with information leading up to the vote.
No, that's great. Thank you. So we're going to do quite a few different things. One thing we're going to try to do and put together is produce kind of a walkthrough video that we can get out to the public so they can kind of look at it through their own eyes there. We're also going to host weekly open houses where anybody's welcome we're going to invite them in, show them the current facilities, kind of give them a walking tour, information, answer any questions that they have. We're going to just continue to push out additional information wherever we can along the way. We have a couple different public interactions that we're working on scheduling and lightning in. I don't want to completely give them away yet because, they're kind of in the works. But so I think we have a lot of opportunity for anybody that has any interest, or maybe they're kind of on the fence, or they want to lay their own eyes and they want more information. And, anything that comes our way, we'll try to return that, whatever the questions are, return that information as quickly as we can. I know that, our Angie Sharp's been working hard to maintain a frequently asked questions list that's on our website and that is available at any time, so that, and she'll just continue to build on that as they come in through me or through anybody else in the city, so that we continue to address any of the concerns or answers as we get them. So I think that those are all great opportunities for anybody. We welcome anybody in and answer any of their questions. We're fully transparent in this. This is just where we've worked to become, again, like Chris said, through the process. It has been long. It has been a lot of hours have been put in. We have really, tightened down on it, trying to, find out, needs versus, wish list items and things like that nature. We really have, brought it into what our needs for our city we believe are, and how we can best return those, and we can help retain employees, encourage other employees to come work for us here, to have a place that our city can be proud of their department, that they can see it, they're welcome to visit, or if they have unfortunate circumstances that they need the police department, they have somewhere they can come and they know they'll get the kind of service that they expect.
So as you looked at design options too, were you mindful of what the appearance was, or some of the facilities that go up, it seems visually excessive, and it doesn't appear like this is the case here, that was really front and center in terms of the design and functional without being exorbitant and excessive.
No, you're exactly correct. It is not to the point where I would say that we even know what the facade is to look like 100%. We know that we want it to blend in the area. We want it to fit well along the Devil's Glen corridor. We want it to blend well with the residents that live along that way. We're not trying to create something extravagant and something that's really draws away from the community that's already there. We really want to have just a nice, smooth fit that's welcoming for everybody that's in that area, and not an extravagant cost, to the best that we can afford. So.
And I'm not sure whether this is a Jason thing or a Jeff thing, but Jerry is always mindful of, hey, let's remind folks and remind ourselves of these various buckets of money. And as we talk about, could we have used this money versus that money? Maybe you can remind us again of how this is being funded and why it's being proposed the way it is tonight.
Yes, thanks for the question, Councilmember Nauman. Cities are very limited in their ability to fund projects of this nature. As Chris mentioned earlier, this is a general corporate purpose according to state code. So we're very limited in issuing bonds for these purposes without asking for voter approval. So the voter approval is a necessary step in order for us to issue this debt. These bonds can be used only for this project once approved, unlike bonds that we issue today for essential corporate purposes like building streets and sewers and things of that nature. There's some question as to why couldn't we use the money for the bridge to build this police station. It's a separate bucket of money funded through a TIF stream from the development out there at the Middle Road and Forest Grove corridor. So that money has to stay within that area to build projects in that area. So there's a lot of kind of finance technical stuff to talk about here. But I think that's probably the best way to boil it down is, like you said, there's money of different buckets. We can't use it all the same. And in this case, we absolutely have to ask the voters for approval in order to take on a project like this.
I would just add really quick to that as well. So Jason spoke very eloquently about the buckets. One thing that is, it was a challenge for us is looking at the differentiation between those buckets, and most specifically, the difference between an essential corporate purpose and a general corporate purpose. And I don't want to go down a rabbit hole there tonight, but we could quantify a fire truck as an essential corporate purpose, for example. the building it goes in, a police station, a fire station, are not considered essential corporate purposes. They require the vote of the people to have those measures approved. So it's very interesting that we can buy a piece of hardware, yet the facility to house that piece of hardware is something that the voters need to react to. So that was one of our caveats or nuances we had to work through. If we're to go out for a specific project and issue a bond for a specific project, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, but the max we could bond for any specific project is $900,000. Is that correct?
Right around 900, yep.
Right around $900,000. So our constraints on just going out for a general bonding issuance would be $900,000. And we've talked about that as well. There's no ability for us to say bank those, 900 this year, 900 next year, 900 the following year to get us to a point. You can only issue one time for 900,000 for a specific project. So we were a little bit confined, but the reality is as well, respectfully to the voters, we wanted to give them the opportunity to have their voice heard on a subject matter that's so important to our community. And we believe that this measure and this opportunity is a way in which to do that.
One other thing, and I need to just kind of get my head around this, is we were talking about this thing coming forward. It was right after the tariffs were announced, and there was a lot of uncertainty, and still is, in the marketplace of what would this mean. And then we look at not to exceed. But I think that the department and all leaders are pretty much saying, if we were to wait, like for example, if this doesn't pass, do we think, or do we even have any sense of what that number might look like the next time we can actually bring this forward, and how much wouldn't it be significantly more expensive as we go forward? Is that fair to say?
The short answer
Yes.
is yes. I mean,
That's what we've seen.
absolutely. The facility itself, by and large, will be a cinder block style hardened facility. A lot of technical equipment goes into that, and a lot of security measures are going to go into it. But structural steel is not going to get any cheaper. If you ask the folks at Estes, or we've been blessed with Pat Eikenberry, who works for IMEG on this committee as well, they know what construction costs are looking like today. They're never going to go lower than they are today. Could they stay the same for a small window of time? They could, but the reality is it's only going to go up. So we looked at comps, other buildings and facilities that are similar in size and scope, similar technically, and they are far higher than the cost per square foot of this facility. So we think we've done a good job of working with Estes to create a very realistic structure that will accommodate everyone's needs. And to answer the question, long story short, yes, it'll just get higher in cost.
And
Your Honor.
Doug, you might want to talk about, you and Keith had gone to a number of new facilities across the state just to get a look at layouts and understand from those folks what they went through.
Yeah, we a lot of our local law enforcement partners here in the Quad Cities have built stations, in the last decade, the last 5 years. We were able to tour a lot of those. Altoona was just finishing up their police department facility. So we were able to go up and look at what they did and talk to their captain and their chief, who have been instrumental through their entire process. So it just, it is a lengthy process. Everybody has to put a lot into it. There's really no time like today, because to everybody's points, it just continues to rise in costs and prices. There was some different financing in the past that helped some of these cities navigate this in different ways. And today, it's a referendum at 60%. That's kind of the way we would be able to fund this. They all have put in all the training, security, evidence, storage needs, space for their communities, training rooms. Those are just all purpose-built, modern-day facility needs that all these police departments are building across the country, let alone the ones that we toured. We did a lot of looking at, through like the international associations, the chief of police, and different other sources that have kind of come out and brought some of the products of other departments, and we've reviewed what they've been building and what they've been doing all across the country. So we're kind of being able to see what we should have been looking at and talk to what some of those concerns are later on that they wish they could have done different, had they build it this way or that way, and how the efficiencies would work better for their patrol staff, their detective staff, their support records, all those things. We've been trying to learn as much as we can from everybody else so that we can be making the most benefit of our educational experiences through them.
Other questions? Yes, Frank, and then we'll go Jerry.
I just wanted to point out for the public that's watching this, that when we started out, if I remember right, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the total bond issue could have been 40 million. And that was with us buying property to build on. And we were able to take some land or present some land to build a new police station on that we own. And so we got that 40 million down to 27 million. I think that shows the direction that the staff and everything is going with this.
Jerry?
Thank you, Your Honor. My question or request for information revolves around the fact that the police station is currently here in the southern part of town in the First Ward, and now we're going to move it to a more central location. I see nothing but advantages moving it to the central location. If you could explain to us a little bit about patrols, how the patrols work, and therefore we're going to see absolutely no degradation of service to the First Ward by putting it up at Middle Road.
Thank you. Yes, and that's correct. You will not see any service change to the First Ward. So a police department across the entire country, their model is they assign beat area geographical locations. They call them beats. Inside those beats, you dedicate your squads, your officers to those areas, and then that's their assigned area. And we have currently set up 4 geographical beat locations throughout the city. Our first beat lines up with Ward 1, and that whole area will always have officer presence 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So none of that will change. The only real change will be for an officer that needs to refill their squad car, they need to resupply their equipment, they need to take somebody in for interviewing, they need to meet with somebody who wants to walk in the door and ask to meet with a specific officer about a specific item. That meeting location would be in the center part of town as opposed into the current building that we're in right now.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Lisa?
Not so much questions, comments. I mean, as far as putting in the center and stuff, we are growing so quick out to the north. I think that's the ideal location and the need. We've totally have been validated. I think Chief Scott's point, as far as it being perfect, as far as being between the high schools, is huge. I was in a meeting. I think our meeting was last week, and heard so many comments from the citizens after they did the tour of the police station, and they were shocked. So I think that just convinced them right there. And then I think otherwise Alderman Nauman asked some excellent questions. So,
Any other questions? Nick, do you have any?
Thank you, Your Honor. No, this has been helpful. Thank you for all the information.
You bet. All right, this is an item to appear.
Greg wants to.
Greg?
Thank you, Your Honor. I started on the police department in 1972. I think I was the 17th officer. We now have 52, or authorized 52.
Yes.
We just outgrown it. You need to come down, if you have any doubt at all, you need to come down and look at the current facility. And there's need for expansion in other departments too, in this building. Public safety is the city's primary job. And we've got 3 fully manned fire departments now, or fire stations. I think we're in good shape there, but the police facility is terrible. I was actually still on the police department 25 years ago, as Decker mentioned, when they remodeled, and we were having to occupy it. A police department is not an office building. There's a whole bunch of things that you have to put in safety, security purposes and evidence and sally ports to get prisoners in safely. There's just so many things with a police station that isn't a normal building. So there's going to be some cost to that. I also understand that it's going to be big enough or built big enough that it's going to last for a while. Isn't that true? It's going to be,
Yeah, we're targeting like a 10 to 20 year minimum
Yeah.
to deal with expansion, and everything is relative. So there's a footprint out to the, I guess it would be to the east of the building, should we need it, that the city already owns. So it's just kind of as we, we can only see so far into the future. We don't know exactly what growth would occur, what our needs would be, but it would be available should we need it and should we need to make that ask.
but it's folks, it's so important that this passes. It's necessary for the city, public safety, and I encourage anyone that has any doubt to come down and take a tour or get more information. So thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Yes.
One last thing, Your Honor. We got a comment from a citizen after the survey saying that he didn't support us having a jail at that location. And we've not had a jail in this building for 35 years.
Right.
We eliminated the jail. If we have a prisoner, we transport the prisoner to Scott County Jail. So there's no jail facility that's in this building, nor will there be one in the new facility, just to get that out there.
Anything else? All right, this is an item to appear, so we'll take a look at it tomorrow night. Let's move to our consent agenda. Is there any item on consent any particular council member would like to discuss at this time? Yes, Craig J.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could we take a look at consent item C for just a moment? This is the federal aid agreement for assisting with the rec trail along Middle Road. I just wanted to understand a bit more. The project itself is in fiscal year 28 has a budget of $950,000. 526 is to be paid for by the feds, leaving about 425,000. If the resolution is approved tomorrow night and authorizes the mayor to sign the agreement, is the city therefore bound to spend the 425,000 in fiscal year 28?
I would say the answer is yes, unless the project gets delayed in some form, but I would say yes. The answer today is yes.
Thank you. My concern on that is, as you might expect, the discussion about debt service. We haven't got there. I don't anticipate we're going to get there until after the Lyle Summit goal setting such. But it occurs to me that the more money we irrevocably commit in outbound fiscal years, it's like a boa constrictor around the options that the council may have to address debt. This particular item seems to me to be worthwhile. We're picking up $500,000 of federal money. I wouldn't want to see the city turn it down. But I also ask that we be mindful of the fact the more we commit money in future years, the less discretion we're going to have to address the debt level in those future years. When the council gets to this discussion, if it agrees to, for instance, lower the amount that we're going to commit each year, somebody's going to have to redo the CIP and come up with a CIP that'll be a smaller on a yearly basis. And by agreeing to 425,000 in fiscal year 28, we're tying our hands, at least for that amount of money in that fiscal year. And I just wanted the council to be aware of what we were doing if this is going to be irrevocable. As a practical matter, I can't see any reason to give up $500,000, but I'm uncomfortable with the idea of committing in the outbound years until we get the discussion held and a resolution comes to the fore. Thank you, Your Honor.
Any other items on consent? Okay, I'd entertain a motion that we approve tomorrow night's consent agenda at this time.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll take up the entire consent agenda tomorrow evening. I have nothing to add to tomorrow night's agenda. Any council member have anything to add? All right, seeing none, we will move into an executive session pursuant to Iowa Code Section 21.51 sub I for the purposes of discussing the performance evaluation of our city attorney. Chris, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have provided counsel a letter requesting that we go into executive session to be consistent with the Iowa Supreme Court case. I would request that we have a motion from counsel stating that there would be that it would be reasonable to move into closed session to have an open and frank conversation about items that might potentially be reputationally harmful to myself.
We did receive that letter, and I do believe that we can move into executive session to conduct the performance evaluation of the city attorney to allow a conversation that may include comments that may support Chris's performance or be harmful to Chris's reputation, and therefore I ask that we solicit a motion to do so to enter executive session at this time.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Adamson.
Aye.
Jaeger.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Nauman.
Aye.
Sexer.
Aye.
Baden.
Aye.
Pelzinski.
All right.
Okay, we have
keep you waiting,
unanimously
Michelle.
voted to enter an executive session. With that, we'd ask that we clear the room. Thank you all for being here. Discussion.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would make a motion that staff be directed to implement the discussion of the council in its executive session by placing a resolution on consent agenda for the meeting following tomorrow night's meeting, adjusting the compensation for the city attorney.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Decker, please call the roll.
Adamson.
Aye.
Jaeger.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Nauman.
Aye.
Sexer.
Aye.
Baden.
Aye.
Pelzinski.
He's coming.
He would have said aye.
Got it.
I'm sure he would have.
Got it. Got it.
I'm through. Sorry. I'll say it again.
Do you want to collect, oh, no, that's fine. Let's go to motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Good work, people. Do you want to collect these for tomorrow?